So I think much better to think about them instead of opposites as arrayed along a continuum. And so intrinsic motivation is stuff that we are naturally motivated to do, and that would include things like learning. And the sort of, I think, first three, the ABCs, right? Autonomy, belongingness, competence. Those are three ends toward which we're always intrinsically motivated to pursue them. So we're always motivated to sort of pursue our capacities to sort of become more self-determining and develop autonomy, always motivated to connect with other people, always motivated to develop competence. The catch for teachers is we're not always motivated to do those things on the particular content and curriculum that the teacher has in mind. The student may have, video games in mind that they really want to become competent on and, foster a sense of belonging with the other players in the game, that kind of thing. So back to the idea of intrinsic motivation. So that is, in many ways, sort of this pure form of motivation. But, that's often not how the real world works. And so what teachers often find themselves in the position of is, well, I need students to be motivated to do this particular lesson on math or science or social studies. And how can I get them to be engaged in it in such a way that looks more like intrinsic motivation? And so a tough challenge for sure, but there are lots and lots of nudges that teachers can do to kind of push students down in that direction on the continuum, and a series of other things like offering rewards and saying like do it or else, having really contingent structures in the classroom that will push students to be more extrinsic in their motivation. And so to give a couple examples of things that would sort of nudge more toward the intrinsic, hopefully you can avoid giving rewards, but if you do find yourself in a position where you just can't get students to engage in a task without something else, making the rewards not tangible, making them not contingent on performance, those are things that are going to make it easier to sort of help students develop a more something that more closely resembles intrinsic motivation ultimately. And I guess the one other thing I would say is that thinking back to the sort of ABCs, if you can leverage certain aspects to foster other aspects, that can be really helpful. So as an example, if you've got me in the classroom and I am not motivated to learn chemistry, it was my least favorite subject, there was no chemistry in the relationship I had with that teacher. One thing you might think about doing as you're, needing to get me to be more fluent in a certain set of equations is set up a group project, because I liked lots of other students in that class. And so you'd be sort of leveraging a sense of belonging and relatedness, and using that to sort of draw me into the content area. So those are some of the sorts of things that teachers can do to kind of nudge students maybe more toward that intrinsic end of the continuum. As you sort of do these types of things, like getting kids to write their own explanations of how content X that they're learning in science class actually applies to their real life back home, that's a way to begin to internalize why this is important and it matters, even though the particular curriculum or set of knowledge that had to be worked on and learned at first was completely extrinsic at the outset.
Mm.